The interface for selecting an existing agreement when adding a resource to an agreement from the basket has changed. Here I add the resource to the basket, and now when I go to select an existing agreement, I get the full agreement search. So in this case, for example, where we have many agreements already in existence, I can use the usual filter, for example, filter down to draft agreements, and then combine that with other search criteria to find the agreement that I need to add this resource to. In all other ways, this works as before. When using resources in the local knowledge base, it is now possible to select whether particular packages are updated by synchronization with an external knowledge base or through file import or not. This is controlled through a new synchronization status property that displays both in the package search and in the package view. And this can either have the value of paused, which means that currently, even if there are updates in a synchronization or file upload, that package won't be updated, or synchronizing. This means that when there are updates from the package, these will be updated in the local knowledge base. Note that synchronizing doesn't mean that the package is currently synchronizing. It's not an action. It is just a notification that on the next time there are updates from that package, those will be included into the local knowledge base. You can change a package from paused to synchronizing or vice versa, and you can do this with multiple packages by selecting them in the package search. When a package is set to synchronizing, this will not immediately trigger a synchronization of that package to bring it up to date. It will only be updated when the next update comes through from the external source. Changing a package from pause to synchronizing does create a resync job, which will appear in the local KB admin screen. But with GOKb harvesting or file upload, that does not currently change anything. In future releases, there will be a more immediate synchronization of packages as you change the status. In the case of GOKb, at the moment, you will need to reset the cursor, which will force a new synchronization of the entire GOKb, or wait for the package to be updated in GOKb and then see that update come through in the Folio local knowledge base at the next harvest. It is now possible to delete serial records from the serials management module. This can be accessed from the Actions button, and if a serial record has no other information associated with it, it can be deleted. Note that serial records that have publication patterns attached and potentially predicted or receiving pieces linked cannot be deleted. These should instead be marked as closed. We have added support for publication pattern templates. Here you can see on the publication pattern form, I can select from a set of defined templates, searching for the right one and then choosing it, and that will populate a publication pattern with all of the details needed for, in this case, a monthly publication pattern. I don't need to make any further changes, although I can, if I need to, make manual changes. But if the publication pattern template is good as it is, then this will immediately give me a monthly publication pattern, in this case with 2 levels of enumeration, volume and issue number, as well as date. I can change the template I'm using for an existing publication pattern, as long as it's editable. And in this case, for instance, changing to a publication pattern which is 2 issues per month. The publication patterns templates available are defined by the tenant. So in this case, many of them are in German. They've been designed for a German speaking client, but they could be exactly the templates needed for any particular library. So you're not constrained to any predefined set of templates, but can define the ones that you wish to use for your library. The templates themselves are loaded currently through an API call. Here I'm loading using Postman, but you can load using any method of accessing the API. So I've set up a Postman job which loads a file of templates, and these ones are English language equivalents of the German language ones already in the system. And if I go back to adding a publication pattern now, we can see that there are English language versions of the various publication patterns here. This is just to demonstrate the way in which you add publication patterns to the system, publication pattern templates to the system. Since this is expected to be a very occasional job, or perhaps one that's only done at initial setup, once you've decided what the most common templates are, then this isn't something that we expect you to need to change or update very often. At the moment, there is no UI for this, but it has to be done through the API. It is possible that in future releases, a UI for template upload will be supported. When generating a predicted piece set for a serial, it's now possible to predict for multiple years or cycles in advance. So the default is to still predict 1 year's worth of issues. Here, the predicting issues for 2025, and you can see that the default is to use 1 year. But if I increase that here to 2 years, we'll now predict 2 years worth of issues, so volume 1 and volume 2 in this case, and I can increase that, for instance, to 5 years. There is a limit on the number of issues that can be predicted in advance, a number of years that you can predict in advance. So if I try and do 200 years, it will tell me that this is not allowed, but it will, in this case, predict up to 30 years in advance, although that would be a very large number of issues for to predict in advance. It does mean that you don't necessarily have to predict for each year at one time. If I use this to generate the predicted preset, although, as I say, I don't think that you would normally consider doing 30 years worth of issues, you can see that those are all created in the predicted preset, and that predicted preset could in turn be used to generate receiving pieces for all 360 pieces in this case.